Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Refined Conversations. Today we have Akinlana Burrows on. Welcome to the podcast, Akinlana.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you for having me. Let's go.
I'm excited. You always have good energy, so I'm excited to get into this conversation. So we're going to start off with a prayer, and then we'll get to talking. All right. So, Father, I thank you for this day. I thank you for Akinlana. I thank you for the time that you've given us to come and connect and talk about how wonderful you've been in our lives. I pray this episode blesses all who listen and that you would minimize us and maximize who you are so you get the glory, the honor, and the praise. We give thanks and we ask these blessings in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So I love to start off by asking a question. And I think the question, this was on my heart earlier because I was thinking about it for me. And I want to know, like, how has God been showing up for you lately? You can take
Where
a
do I
minute if you need
start?
a minute.
Yeah. I think the most recent time that God has shown up has just been in this home purchasing season, right? Like for the longest, I've never really been that excited about buying a home because I always looked at home ownership as kind of handcuffs.
Yeah.
Handcuffs, and I've always loved the nomadic lifestyle. I've always loved kind of being able to travel and to live overseas. And home ownership seems like such a burden. Um, but through the past kind of 3 years of being here in the Charlotte area, it's come to my understanding that I needed to be grounded here in North Carolina. My parents are here after over 20 something years of living in a different state from them, and noticing that it's time to really settle down and to call somewhere home and to reconnect with my parents as an adult. Like it's a totally different dynamic and a totally different relationship with them now. And I said, all right, well, let me look at what home ownership looks like. And then I still kind of like, do I want to put all this money into a house or can I just keep on renting? And so the stuff that I was looking at in terms of pricing, when I did the math was not nothing, and it made sense to just go ahead and go into home ownership. And I'm still in the process, so keep me in prayer, still in the process. But I thought that it was going to be harder to like find a home, but it's only been like maybe 2 months, and like a godsend of an opportunity with all this new build and the new construction and new ownership incentives just has made it so much easier that I see it as like God saying, yes, this ownership journey is for you too. And it's an opportunity to build wealth. It's an opportunity to really be grounded and not be afraid of being grounded in one place. I think there's also that intimidation of just like being in one place that comes up for me. But now it's like just being able to relax and reset and become rooted and firmly grounded in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so that's how I've been seeing God show up in my personal life and then also even in my business, right? So as an entrepreneur, I'm a therapist in private practice. This is now going into my third year. The first 2 years I was insurance based. And I guess the first blessing has been in leaving my agency as a therapist, being an employee, to going into private practice. And then for 2 years being private practice with insurance, and in 2025 being completely private pay without insurance. And so God has been showing up like it's a really scary, it's still a scary place to be, but it's like God telling me that He's my source, right? Not the insurance, not even the clients, but Him. And I'm so grateful that he has been sustaining me. It's not easy, but it's the freedom that I get in the work that I do. Now being able to be private practice is so rewarding and so worth it. So God has been showing up in that in my therapeutic space as well with the clients that I get a chance to work with.
I love that. So you said a lot that I have actually been through, like the home buying thing. I never thought that I would, I could not see myself in a house because I moved every year. I never renewed a lease since I was
Hmm.
22. I had moved every single year. And so I
Wow.
kind of liked it because it's like a refresh. Every
Hmm.
year I get to start fresh, start new in a new space and make it my own. And when God blessed me with this house, I was like, okay, how long is it going to take for me to like get settled? Because I've been here in October, it'll be 2 years. I think I have one photo on the wall right now. Like, every time I put something up, I take it down. And I'm like,
Wow.
no, this just feels weird. So, yeah, I completely get that and how God will move. And when it's time and He calls you to do something, He moves quick. It took me 2 months. Yeah, I started the home buying process in August and found the house in September. We closed in October. Like,
Same.
it went so quick.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I really identify with that part of your story. And then you said something because you know that I recently went full time as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And before I went full time, I had a steady stream of clients. And like I just I I could see like the path forward. I was like, okay, he's already blessed me with this, and I have a 95, and I have enough clients to like carry me over. Cut to commercial, and like I'm in the middle of like the transition part, and the clients are gone. And I'm sitting here like, Lord, what you doing? And I'm talking to a friend of mine, and she's going through a similar season where she just left her corporate job and went full time, and she had a steady stream of clients. And when it got closer to the day, everything just got really quiet. And it's almost like what you said, how he's preparing you, but he's also telling you, I'm going to carry you. You are not going to give credit to anything else in this season but me. So
Right.
I love it. Encourages me to hear you say, like, God has given you like the clients and done this and done that, because that is the part of the season that I'm like waiting to get to.
Hmm.
And just having the trust in him and lay everything at his feet pretty much. Like there's nothing I can do. He called
Yes.
me to leave and I
Now, don't
left.
get it twisted though. While yes, he has given me the clients, my caseload has been cut in half. In half. So
Well,
it's still humbling,
yeah.
and I'm grateful for the clients that I do have. It's not the way it used to be, but I'm just
Hmm.
like, well, God, you know what? At least the lights are still on.
Well,
Thank
no,
you,
and I
Lord. I'm
agree
not
with
in the
that. The
dark.
people that I have that he's already brought to me, the people that I'm already talking to about future contracts and things like that, they're like, I want to do this long term. And so they're
Yes.
coming. They're just coming slower. And it gives me the opportunity to work on other things because I'm not just doing one thing. And so I
Right.
think, but that's a blessing. And I love the perspective that you have because that's also something that I had to shift because I went into complete panic mode. Like right before I left, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, we're leaving the safety net, what's next? Like I'm trusting you, but I also like my brain is like, what is next? I need to know where these people are coming from when they're coming. Da, 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 da. And it
Yeah.
literally was like he was just like, you need to calm down because when I left my job, people kept saying, "Oh, are you going to take some time off? Like, what are you going to do?" And I'm like, "No, I'm hitting the ground running. Like I have plans. I have this. I have that." Day one, I'm sitting there like I'm trying to do stuff, and he's just like, "Rest. Like
Yeah.
stop." And I'm like, okay, so that's just day one. Okay, I'll give it a day. Day two, woke up with like a sore throat. And I'm like, Lord, am I getting sick? Like, this is not how I want this season to start. And he's
Yeah.
just like, relax. Every single day, everything that I wrote out that I plan to do, he has literally been like, mm-mm, we're
Hmm.
doing this my way. Sit tight. I'll tell you when to go. And that for me is humbling because I'm a planner. I love to be organized. I love control. Like I am a planner. And he's
Hmm.
just like, no.
Yeah. Rest
Yeah.
is so key. I
Mm-hmm.
say that because I have, it's been a challenge for me also as like the high achiever, to be productive and introduce rest into the framework of productivity.
I like that.
And I've realized that for myself, when I rested, the rest and the stillness that I integrated into my practice allowed me to operate with purpose and more intention. And so I've even shared this even in my with my clients, because a lot of my clients are also reflections of me, right? High achieving, they're doers, they're movers and shakers. And we just want to hit the ground running and we have the to-do list and we're like, boom, 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 boom. I got this going on, this going on. That's being busy.
Yeah.
And we don't need to confuse busyness with productivity. And we
Yeah.
do that so many times. But one of the diagrams or illustrations that I use is consider being poured into by God or by purpose, and
Mm-hmm.
you're constantly moving,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you're constantly moving and God is trying to pour into you direction, if you're constantly moving, how much of that direction, how much of that purpose are you actually capturing in the space when you're moving and moving and moving and moving and moving?
That's good.
Only when you are still does that complete download of purpose, complete download of information, direction, do you capture it all. Similarly to nature, the wind, if we are moving, and I'm trying to get into like, I'm not trying to get too much into a laws of physics kind of illustration, but if we're running, it's really hard to feel the direction that the wind is going. But the moment that we're still, let's go that way.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go that way. And so it's really important that we integrate elements of stillness and elements of rest into our productive lives in order to operate with intention and with purpose.
I love that.
Rest,
I
and
love
and
that.
I love the book also. Rest is resistance. That's a whole nother
Rest is
thing. That's
resistance. Okay.
anti grind culture. Rest. I can't remember the name of the author, but
That that hustle and that grind culture, I'm 100% against that. That was something that I kept getting warned against. Like anytime I spoke to someone, and whether it was my mentor or just anybody within the church, they were like, "Do not give in to grind culture. That is not of God. Because when you are grinding and when you are hustling, you are going before God, and you're telling God, 'I got this. You take a seat.'" And that's when you start stepping on His toes, and you cannot do God's job better than God. And so I tell even clients that I have, when we talk about time management, when we work on those kinds of things, I'm not here for the grind culture. I'm like, if you're moving too fast, then you're moving out of alignment with God, because you're going to hit burnout. You're going to be tired. You're going to be frustrated. Those are all things that God is not giving you. When He called you, He had a plan. Now, if you are veering off that plan, now you're confused. And we
yeah.
don't serve a God of confusion. And so I love that you said that, because I think that's so important. And that actually brings me to another question that I have. When you're in difficult seasons, have you ever experienced spiritual burnout?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
What
Oh
does that look
yes.
like?
Exhaustion, feeling tired. It actually, it looks a lot like, this is my clinical psychologist coming on. It looks a lot like depression, right?
Really?
It's a lot of being so tired, even though you're slept 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like, for me, like not eating, or it could be overeating.
Mm-hmm.
It's also looked like I don't feel like praying. I know I'm supposed to pray. I know I'm supposed to go to church. I don't feel like doing any of that stuff. Like just being so exhausted with the spiritual piece. Um, I remember specifically a season. This was 2008. Yeah, this was 2008 when I was preparing to go on a mission field. And I was given a 2-year timeline from my missions organization to raise the support because I was going into full-time missions. And that was also the same year of like the housing crisis, and the economy was just like kind of almost another depression, or great depression. And people's finances just were not available to support themselves, let alone support me to go overseas and live in Africa. And I was given an extension by my missions organization by 6 more months to like raise the support to go. And I remember being on a prayer call. We have been doing this prayer call for a while with the church mothers. And I was so exhausted. And I remember being in the call and they were like, okay, well, let's pray. And I was just like, y'all, I'm gonna need y'all to pray. I can't pray. I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna be on this call and I'm gonna listen to y'all. But I got nothing. I'm empty. I am so disappointed. I'm just felt so defeated and so just like almost thinking, did I miss God? Did I not hear from him? Is his timing not the same timing? Because his thoughts are not our thoughts. His timing is not our timeline. I'm like, am I off with my timeline? I thought that I was following him. It's a lot of doubt. It's a lot of doubt. But God had a whole nother revelation about his timing in that season. Because literally, while I was feeling defeated, God's time was right on time. Even though I always say, like, why do you have to wait until the midnight hour? Why did you have to wait until the 3 hours to midnight for the rest of my finances for this missions journey to arrive? I try not to go into those why God or Job moments, because he's going to shut me down every time, single time, and be like, where were you when I was putting the solar system and stars into orbit? So I try
Yeah.
not to go with the why,
Mhm.
but it's still in my body, and it's still in I'm still in my feelings about it.
Mhm.
That was the piece. And so that spiritual burnout looked like self-doubt, looked like doubting my ability to hear from God. It looked like being really tired. It looked like it was really a state of depression, even while, and it was like a spiritual depression, because I didn't have any energy or anything left to give. And I thank God for my church mothers, because they held the fort. They stood in the gap for me. And if it wasn't for them, I definitely would have gone through the ministry that the Lord was calling me into.
I love that. I love that. And you said something that I've gone through. It's not so much depression. It's like I push a pause button and I start causing delay. I don't want to do anything. I go into my head and I sit with the what ifs. And when I don't want to pray, I have to do exactly what I don't want to do, is usually what I need to do.
Yeah,
And even
yeah,
if my prayers sound crazy in that moment, that's what I need to pull me out. I haven't had that church relationship in so long. I love that you were talking about the church mothers, because I remember that from when I was younger.
yeah.
And we went to South Post Oak Baptist Church in Missouri City, or in Houston, and you had church mothers there. I remember seeing people huddle around people during service,
Yes,
after service, like just
yes.
praying over people constantly. But then when we left that environment, I have not been around a church or a group of women that I now have, but I hadn't had that for so many years. So I had to literally fall back on like just different sermons and things like that. And the one thing that I remember, Preston Morrison, he says it all the time: when in doubt, pray. Do not break off communication with God. Even when you don't know what to say, he hears the heart. In between the sobs and the tears, he will hear your heart. And that's where I usually have to land. And I feel like as your faith grows, you hit different levels. So you would I would expect that to be like the default setting, so that I know, oh, I need to do this. And then it just starts looking different, and I'm just like, when you're growing in your faith, the struggle is still a struggle. It's a struggle with different lipstick on. That's how I have to put it.
Okay.
Because it's like, it's just, you've learned through the process, so you're able to recognize past struggles and things that you've gone through. But when the struggle comes, and it could be the exact same struggle, it's like dating the same guy, but he looks different. I think that's the best way to put it. I had to realize, like, I have to look for those context clues, especially when it has to do with faith. When it's just Courtney and it's just things that I'm going through, the world, and just issues that I'm going through with other people, I can identify those faster. But when it comes to faith, you just don't expect to have warfare or the issues that you're having with somebody in the church or outside of the church or somebody that was a spiritual mentor or anything like that. You don't expect to have those things. And so it's just like, it's shocking. But it also reminds you that you really have to stay in tune with God in any season that you're in. Like, you're gonna have hardships, you're gonna have all these issues, and you're gonna feel like you need to separate and just like hunker down and sit with all your feelings. Your feelings will get you in so much trouble. I have to constantly remember that my feelings, oh my gosh, I have to
They're not
separate my
facts.
feelings from my faith.
Yeah. And
Like, my faith helps me control my feelings. And I need that. My faith is like what reels me in, because my feelings will have me going this way, that way, and every other way.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It's ridiculous. But I love that you said that. I think that's a great point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the name of that book, Rest is Resistance, is authored by Trisha Hershey.
Okay. I'm gonna
That's the
find it.
name
I'll
of
put it
it.
on the screen.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like everybody that comes on here is giving me books.
Hey,
I'm
hey,
like, I'm gonna have to read
look
them. We have to do
at
book reviews. I
it's
know.
the way. It's
There
the
you go.
way.
I
We
used
got
to have
to
my
keep it.
bookshelf behind me, but no, I had to move it. But yeah, I
Knowledge is
love that
power.
so many people that are very in tune with their faith, they also read. Like, there's a lot of, like, it spills over into a lot of different areas. And I think that's a beautiful thing to say. The last 3 podcasts, people have been like, they've been talking about faith, but they're like, I was reading this book and then it aligned with this, and like, and they were able to shift their perspective in that way. I'm reading a book called God is My CEO, and there's so much like things in that book that I would never have known, or even a perspective that I never would have had I not read it and just acknowledged, like, I'm actually going through something similar. But they got through it completely differently.
Yeah.
And there's a man, actually, and I know it's a little sideways, but there's a man in the story, and he was the CEO of, or the president of Conoco, the gas company in Houston.
Oh yes.
And when I tell you, this man's story started off with his pastor coming to him. He was just a manager, just a project manager at the time. And his pastor came to him and said, hey, I need you to like form a team. We need to purchase the land over here to expand the church. I need you to get some people together to negotiate that. And so he's like, all right. He got attorneys, he got like accountants, all the people you would think to get to negotiate buying a building from somebody. And for months, all they got was resistance. But the one thing that he did right was he got one of the elders, one of the deacons from the church. And that deacon was like, have you spoken to God about this? Have you gone to God? What has God said about this? Like, they keep saying no. But if God said that we're supposed to have that property and expand this church and has already blessed this project, you're not including him. Like, something's wrong. And he admitted, like, he had not actually gone to God. Even though he told the guy he did, he was like, yeah, I didn't. And so he ends up going to God and surrendering it, and surrendering a whole bunch of other stuff at the same time. And they closed the deal in a month.
Wow.
And I'm just like, that is the perspective that we need to have, is inviting God into everything, no matter the situation or the circumstances. And the beautiful thing about his story, without like going over the years, He had never negotiated anything like that. This
Hmm.
man ended up negotiating the sell of Conoco, a 4.4 or something $1 billion sell. I can't even remember what the
Wow.
actual number was. But he went from God planting a seed here to
Hmm.
God having him do something massive over here.
It
And I'm like,
is.
God, God loves small beginnings. And I hear that, like, even with you and how you started off and you were with the insurance and now you're not, and you have your private practice, and me and the way that my business has started and where it's going to go. And I'm just like, God, like, he really does something when you start small and you trust him over the long haul. He can really do something to transform your life. I know I
Amen.
just talked a lot. So go ahead.
Oh, that's good. It's real. Facts. Facts. That's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
but that reminded me of that. It's like we get all this spiritual opposition and things that we go through,
Hmm.
and it's just like God's doing something in this season because you're going to need it. Maybe 2, 3 seasons, 10 years away. I don't know. But if
Exactly.
you just sit in it and you trust Him and you believe that He has a purpose and a plan, align
Come
with where
on,
He's taking
Jeremiah
you. Just trust.
29:11.
Okay.
Hey, that's one of my choose. 29 Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans
Yes,
I have for
yes.
you.
That
What?
is one. Honestly,
That
that
gives me
verse I
chills
pray into
every
everything
time.
that He tells me to do. Like it's crazy. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
That Jeremiah 29:11. If you just soak and just sit in it, like He has a plan for you, and it's not for disaster. It's to give you hope. So I'm like, why are
Mhm.
you worried? I have to remind myself of that all the time. When I want to panic and go into my little hole and sit by myself and be woe is me, I'm like, you came into this trusting God. You're going to get through it trusting in God. So get out of your
Mhm.
funk and go trust God.
Exactly. And there's that part of the verse that we kind of gloss over that talks about plans not to harm you.
Yeah.
Because we get excited about, but to give you a hope in the future. But there's that bridge, that piece about plans not to harm you. We forget that the harm is still a part of the life and the journey and a part of what we experience on this earth because sin entered the world, right? So even though we have been harmed and we will continue to be harmed because we are in this sinful, fallen world,
Mm-hmm.
that was not God's plan.
Come
Right.
on.
And that even though like we feel these things, and we have to also remember that Jesus said that in this world, we will have trials and tribulations,
Mm-hmm.
but know that he's overcome the world. Just as when he
Absolutely.
is within us, the Holy Spirit is within us is also going to give us the opportunity and that power and the strength to overcome the world. But the trials and the tribulations and the harm, which is generational,
Mm-hmm.
was never God's plan. It was never God's plan, but it happens.
Did
And I
you?
think a lot of times we get into these harm moments and we just like, why God? Why God? I don't know, why am I going through all of this? Because sin into the world. Go back
Yeah.
to the basics. It didn't say that it wasn't gonna happen. It just said that that wasn't his plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that part about it. The
That's
fact
good.
that
That's
the
really
harm is
good.
not God's
That's
plan.
good. I actually saw somebody talking about how you have is it Galatians 5? Yes, I think it is Galatians 5. Fruits of the Spirit. And they were like, everybody loves joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faith.
Long suffering.
That one, everybody forgets long suffering. He did not say that you would not have hard times.
Right.
Yes. But I'm just like, he's already endured and conquered it. Like, the one thing that I've realized is to grow your faith, you have to have gratitude for the things that God has already done. And
Yeah.
that is one of the biggest things in this season that I'm praying and remembering and just glorifying God with. Like, thank you for the things you already did and what you brought me through. Thank you that you made a way and you calmed the storm. Thank you that you spoke to my dad's heart about me quitting my job and he didn't blow up on me. Like, thank you for all the things that I worried about. You've already taken care of because I wouldn't be standing here in this position had you not done it. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
then thank you for the things that you've already prepared for me because
Yeah.
you've already gone before me. And I think
Yeah.
that we have to remember to, in the midst of all that, in the midst of all the things that are going on, all the things that we're going through, all the things that we feel like are trials and turmoil and all that stuff, he's already conquered it and he's already moved through it. God is already in
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow and he's already past that. He's ushering the way forward for you. I remember my mom had this plaque on the wall and it was like footprints in the sand. And she used to say, as long as you stay aligned with God's plan, you are behind him in his footsteps. And the things that he's already conquered pretty much, and this is me like ad-libbing, but the things he's already conquered, they're out of the way. You're gonna see the scary stuff on the side, and the problem is that we like to focus. It's like when you're going through a museum and you're looking at everything, but you're not walking down the aisle and
Yeah.
you're veering off and you're veering off. The reason you're going through this is because you veered off. Get back in alignment with the plan that he
Mm-hmm.
has for you and follow.
Yeah.
And I think that is monumental as far as anybody who's trying to move forward, moving into a new season and following God. Follow in his footsteps and stop veering off when you see something shiny in the world. You can't pick
Mm-hmm.
it up and take it with you because all it's going to do is weigh you down.
Mm-hmm. Johnny Item syndrome. Watch out now.
Yes. And I'm like, I can't sit here and say I've never done it. I do it all the time and I have to remember to go put it back. Go put it back down. That was not for me. There's so many times where I'm just like, this seems like a great idea because somebody else did it. No, it was a great idea for them. That's not for you. What God has for you is very specific to who you are and what he has put on the inside of you and that he's calling out. When you try to pick up things because you see somebody else's gift shining through, all
Yeah.
you do is delay yourself.
Yeah.
Put it down.
Right. You know, it actually just reminds me of, it's kind of like when I used to go to the supermarket with my niece and nephew, and this was when they were children.
Mm-hmm.
I had to start out with the disclaimer. We're going to the supermarket for milk, for bread, for eggs, for cereal, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
giving them the objective based on need. And then I would say, do not ask for anything else, regardless of
Yeah.
how much you're gonna see toys. You're gonna see other cereals that were not on the list, and you're gonna see other things that are gonna look so appealing. But know that we're going to the store, and I would even ask them to repeat, what are we going to the store for? Okay. Behold, they were like 4 and 5 at the
Mm-hmm.
time. We get to the store, the shiny object syndrome kicks in,
Yeah.
their hearts get excited. It's like amnesia. It's like Dory, right? The Dory from Finding Nemo. You forgot the whole conversation that we just had. Didn't I say? But the emotions are so high that it shuts off the cognition. It shuts off the logic of we've already had needs. This trip was a needs-based trip, not an emotional trip. And I feel like that's a way in which God is also telling us that he's going to take care of our needs. This is the stuff that we need to be focused on, the needs, but we still very much can get so emotional in the shiny object cereals and the captain and the this and the that and the stuff that looks good and it's sugary and it's so sweet in life. And God has to yoke us back in and being like, we're going to the store for eggs,
Mm-hmm.
milk, and bread. These are the needs that I said I would supply all of your needs, right? I didn't say I'm gonna supply all of your wants or all of
Yeah.
your shiny object syndrome. And so that's so keen and that you mentioned that, because that's been such a testimony in my life so many times. It's just like to be focused and staying the path that God has called me on, because
Mm-hmm.
it's so easy, especially in this social media digital world where you're
Yes.
seeing other people doing so much stuff
Mhm.
that it's so easy to be quick to divert your attention off of like what God called you to do and wanting to do what other people are doing just because it looks appealing.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
basically like I can't remember what the new one is, but everybody was like, "Oh, I have FOMO" for like the longest time,
Okay.
and wanting to be
Yes.
involved in things that they never needed to be involved in, and all that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
I realized when I started the other podcast, Living Room Confessional, I was trying to do every gimmick, every
Mhm.
podcast gimmick that they told you to do online. I
Mm.
did because I felt like if I didn't do it, that would be the one that would have worked, that would
Yeah.
have changed everything. And
Yeah.
I felt like I was going to miss out on an opportunity. And when
True.
I tell you guys, I got so far off the path that God had laid out for me. I
Mhm.
was burned out after, I want to say 6 months. The first 6 months, that was the first time I tried to shut it down. I tried to shut
Mm.
that podcast down 3 times, and God was like,
Mm.
I'm not done with it. You just need to get back into alignment. It took 5 years for me to finally get back into alignment
Yeah.
with what he initially told me to do with that podcast.
Okay.
And I went through so many issues because what I kept doing was looking at what everybody else was doing, looking at the type of conversations. Everybody's like, oh, you need to talk about the trending topics. Like,
Mm.
don't you dare be an individual in this world. Do what everybody else is doing so that you can follow the herd. And the minute I started doing that and started calling on people who were more known than I was,
Mm.
completely fell off with the purpose of it. Had people on there talking about stuff I never should have been talking about. But I love the gradual process in which he brought me back. It wasn't something like I'm going to take you and move you where you need to be. It's like, no, what did I tell you to do? Go back over. What are we getting at the store?
She want to
Eggs,
soda.
milk, bread. Exactly. And I'm just sitting here like, I'm so grateful that he did that because
Mm.
it made me understand and notice when. So I now know what it looks like. So I will notice when I start to veer off, something shifts. And I notice
Mm.
the feeling, everything starts to feel different and it starts to change. And then I don't recognize it. And then there's confusion. And all these things start popping up that weren't initially there. And so I love that when God calls you to something, he doesn't just rip away the calling. He actually gives us the opportunity to realign with what he initially said and get back to it.
Mhm.
And I think that just shows how graceful he is because I I really needed that. And in my life, I'm almost exactly 5 years to when probably this week actually when we're recording this is 5 years when he first gave me the vision for Living Room Confessional to start that podcast. And I was like, oh, I'm quitting my corporate job. Like immediately, like this is going to pop off and it's going to be great.
Mhm.
And nope, it was just the beginning of a lesson that
Yeah.
led to
Yeah.
another
Yeah. Yeah.
lesson. But it just shows how graceful he is when he calls you to something because 5 years later, almost to the date, I have now left my corporate job and I'm doing this full time. And he's expanded the vision. And I am so
Mhm.
excited.
Yeah. And
Yes.
he surprises us every single turn
Right?
in the process. Also, I'm just like,
Yes.
and then it makes me just wonder. Also, like, why did I ever doubt you? Like, what? Like, this is so. This journey is filled with expectations and unexpected surprises. So
Yes.
it's and disappointments, but
Yeah. Yeah,
also
you
just
have
like
to be real about that.
the
Yeah, there are going to be
expectations.
things that you were
Hmm.
like, I wish I didn't see that coming. But
Yeah,
I think that's the beautiful thing. God is really he really shows you who He created you to be, and what's on
yeah.
the inside of you. You said there's so many things, unexpected things that He does and surprises you. He surprises me with my character and showing
Mm,
me who I actually am. I'm always praying, Lord, show me and like just show me how to get to the version of me that you knew when you were like Courtney's ready to go down, like it's her turn.
yeah, yeah.
And the like there have been moments where I would have probably like lost my mind on somebody and ran my mouth way too much. The amount of people that I have been apologizing to in this season for things they had no idea that I did.
Okay,
Like, that's a surprise.
that's good.
I
Yeah,
used to
to
say I struggled
apologize.
with
Yeah.
judgment. I struggled with just apologizing. I was struggling in areas of my character that I didn't even realize were a problem. I'm sitting here like, oh, I'm doing great in this area. The Lord has blessed me. He's done this. He was like, you cut your eyes at her the other day. You're envious. Now we're gonna work on that. And so and that's a disappointing thing. That's like, even for me, that's a disappointing thing, because you think that you've excelled and gotten to a certain point, and then you're just like, things that were never an issue all of a sudden are an issue. Because
Yeah.
in a refining process, he's going to keep refining you until he can see his reflection. So everything that does not look like him is going to start coming to the surface. You think you're done in one area, and he was like, okay, now do this. Yeah, it's
That's
ongoing.
true. And it's pain, and the thing, the refining process is not like a comfortable process. It's a painful process at times. And it's
Yeah.
just like, ouch, like burn, right? Like you when you mentioned just like the Bible verse of just like going through the fire to come out as gold. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have to be burned. Like fire hurts. Last time I checked, I don't know any other fire that doesn't hurt, but last time I was in like an elements, looked at the elements chart, like fire is painful. Anything
Yeah.
that's burning, but it has to be burned out, right? It
Yeah.
has to be pruned. The pruning process also. God has to cut
Um,
things out of our life, and that pruning process also is painful, and it
doesn't
can
that
be
hurt? Because you don't
lonely,
expect to
and
lose people. You think that everybody that loves you is on your side, but in certain seasons, even the people that love you sometimes don't want to see you succeed.
yeah.
And understanding that and being able to realize that and have that
Mm,
realization before they do something that completely turns you off your path.
yeah.
I started realizing that, yes, people care about me, but they say so many negative things, and that's what sticks with me. It wasn't the nice
Mm,
thing
mm,
that you said before that. It
mhm.
was that negative thing that I held on to. So now
Yeah.
you can't come. Like, you got to go sit down.
You're
And I think that's a
uninvited.
hard part. Because, I mean, I still love you. And then sometimes they don't understand. They're like, why aren't you calling me? Why aren't we hanging out? Why aren't we doing this? And I'm just like,
Yeah.
because I'm at a point where I'm gonna fall back if I keep hanging out with you.
Mm,
But
mm,
it's like, how do you say that to somebody? And then you have to keep saying stuff like that to people, because you realize he's just gonna start, your circle's gonna start dwindling. The
yeah.
more God uses you, the bigger things that he's called you to, your circle's gonna get smaller and smaller, because what God has to do is be at the center.
Yep.
And anything that is not in alignment as you orbit around him is going to fall away.
Hmm. That
And
makes
that's hard.
sense. Absolutely. Yeah, it is. And it's pain. It's hard.
It's
It's
hurtful.
painful. It's lonely. It's all of that.
Yeah.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
that was one thing I didn't realize about being an entrepreneur. And I had this conversation with somebody else, is how lonely you feel. And it's like, you have stuff to do, and
Mm-hmm.
you're talking to clients, and you're talking to a mentor, and you're always talking to different people and
Yeah.
engaging in just different things. But at the end of the day, if they're not in it, if they're not aligned with it, they don't understand everything you must do and the time that it takes and all that kind of stuff. And they start to back away. And you start to realize, you look up one day and you're like, where is that? Like, everybody's gone.
Yeah.
But that means that you're doing your work. But at the same time, it can feel like a very lonely road.
Hmm.
And that was
Absolutely.
that was that was unexpected.
Yeah. And that's why it's also important that I've had to be more intentional, especially because the majority of my work is virtual, to join these like women in business networking groups, to be able to connect like in church groups, the e-groups that we're in, and just know that I have to be intentional now about plugging in
Yeah.
with other entrepreneurs, other women entrepreneurs, so that because I don't want to be an island. because I don't know it all, and I get a chance to learn from other entrepreneurs' journey and live and learn from the mistakes that they made, because I don't want to have to repeat those mistakes. If someone tells me that the stove is hot, I don't need to touch it. I'm at the place when I was younger, I'd be like, let me see. I used to play with the stove. Like, hey, are you sure it's hot? Let me see if it's really hot. No. Now you tell me that stove is hot. Got you. I don't need to go to the stove and play with it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that part has really humbled me in connecting with these other like entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs, really asking for that help. Because, I'm the type of person to be like, I got this. I'm so insufficient. God bless a child who's got their own lies, the lies of the enemy. God ain't blessing that. No. That's not Bible. That's musical, but it's not Bible. So I had to like reframe that and just abandon that mindset of like independence and become more interdependent, not codependent, because a whole nother side of the spectrum, but like interdependent, where I get a chance to commune and connect with others and ask for help and receive the help when it's offered, because that
Yeah.
happens a lot in work. It's like people want to help and I'm like, no, it's okay, I can do it. And then now I'm up until 3 o'clock in the morning doing stuff myself when the offer for help was given. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's, yeah, it's a definite humbling space to be in this entrepreneurial journey, but I'm leaning into community.
I
So
love
yes,
that.
I'm gonna invite you into some of these spaces also, Courtney,
Please
because
do.
there's some
Y'all
really
invite me.
good,
Please do.
yeah, business organizations and communities that you can
Yeah, because
join.
I went through a bit of a rough patch where I was like, it was very hard for me to listen to other people's advice because I'm like, you're not doing it. You don't get it. Like, I just had this idea, and I'm like, you're moving away from what I initially thought, what I wanted to do, and then I would be up till like 5 in the morning, like doing all
Mm-hmm.
these edits, and the process was so long, and I was miserable, and that's part of the reason why I burned out, because I didn't know how to receive help. And now I'm like calling people who do it, and I'm like, okay, there has got to be an easier way. What are you doing? And then I
Yeah,
just weigh the options. It You really can't, like, it takes a village. In its own
yeah.
way, it takes a village. You have to have a community. And I don't think that God calls us to anything to do it completely alone and to isolate ourselves. I don't think that in any regard, because even like if you look at prophets in the Bible, Elijah, the first one, had so much that he did, but God gave him the princess Elijah. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just like, and then Elijah had his servant and all that kind of stuff. You're not meant to walk in anything. You may be the primary in something, but God will always send
Mm-hmm.
somebody to help you. Like, you need a
Yeah,
helpmate. All throughout the Bible, it's not just for marriage and relationships and all that kind of stuff. When you are running a
yeah.
business or doing anything like that, you need a helpmate. You need community. People that you can bounce ideas off and people that can hold you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I
That's
think I
true.
think that's so important. And I literally had to get over myself because I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't need your help or anybody else's help. And now I'm like, help me, please.
Yeah,
Make
yeah,
this
yeah.
easier.
I just thought of a phrase, I love thinking of like alliterations, and I'm just like, delegation is deliverance. And I say it's deliverance because it's deliverance from me thinking that I can do it all by myself. It's deliverance from me thinking that I know it all by myself. It's deliverance from all of the things of just like, I got this,
Yes.
when I just delegate the administrative stuff and delegate the calendar scheduling stuff, delegate the email management stuff, delegation is deliverance, delegation is freedom, delegation is power. And I had to learn that like late in life. And I'm still learning it because I still sometimes want to be like, well, I'll just do it myself. Or
Yeah.
this another part, no one can do it like how I do. And it's okay.
Love it.
No one is me, and it's okay. It's not a bad thing that they can't do it like I
Mm-hmm.
do. It's they do it like how they do. But as long as it gets done, the outcome is still the same. Who cares if the peanut butter, you're making peanut butter and jelly, who cares if the peanut butter is on the left or the peanut butter is on the right? As long as you have peanut butter
There you
and
go.
jelly, and you bring it together and you're making a sandwich, you made a great meal.
Yeah. You have to, and I've heard this recently. You have to look at everybody as talent because God has given gifts to every single person, whether they're using it or not. That's their business. But everybody has a gift, and when you are trying to build anything, a relationship, a friendship, a community, I don't care, you have to get comfortable with people whose gifts are different than yours, who's stronger than yours, and you have to get comfortable with where your gift is. I think that
Yeah.
was one of the most intimidating things to me is people with bigger gifts, or I felt they were bigger at the time,
Okay.
and I felt it made me feel smaller. But at the same time, our gifts were not the same. And they had been using their gifts longer. And I had to
Mm-hmm.
get very comfortable with asking people for help whose gifts were different or who were gifts were stronger in areas where I was not strong.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
That's
I feel
true.
like
I
you
love that.
stifle your growth when you're
Mm,
not open. How are you going to build a team? You
exactly.
cannot build a team. You're going to
And
have
it's
to
not
get comfortable with
sustainable.
getting around people who are more gifted than you in areas where you're not strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And even when they need the opportunity to grow
Mhm.
in that area, sometimes the giftings are like jewels and diamonds in the rough that you
That's
have
true.
to give them that permission and that opportunity to grow in it. And I feel like when I micromanage somebody, that stifles the opportunity of that, that raw gem from like
Mhm.
opening up, because I'm like, oh well, I'm gonna do it, let me just do it. I'm just like, no, 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 you gave this person a project to do, let them do it.
Yes.
And I love like now just being able to just like go to Asana and just check the progress that way and not have to be, how's this going, I could just look at the task, look at the progress in that task, and then we meet on once a week. And if you have any questions, then I'm available. But then that relieves a lot of the burden of like having to ask and having to ask and having to ask and wondering how to get stuff done.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I think also because I've realized there's so much to do now that I really do need to get stuff off of my plate, because then I'm
Mhm.
not like living my full life either, right? Because
Yeah.
I don't want my whole world to be business only. Been there, done that. I'm about to be like a whole a century. I can't keep on doing the same thing. Like I gotta
Yeah.
just like broaden the horizon. Just yeah, as Joe Scott says, live my life like it's golden. Live my life like it's golden. I gotta live that
I
golden
was waiting for you to start singing. You know,
life.
I knew it was coming.
I had a bunch of songs in my head all along, but this one had to come out. Yes.
That was a good one. It was a good one. But no, I love that you
Mhm.
said that because I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. You have to allow people the opportunity to grow in their gifts, even if they're not where they need to be at that point. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people miss opportunities because you just wouldn't give it to, like, we don't give it to them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
that was significant. Well, ma'am, I have loved this conversation. I know we hit a lot of
Yeah.
topics, but it's just like living the entrepreneur's dream. It's
Yeah.
talking about business and the things that you love and how God is weaving it all together and working it out for your
Mhm.
good. And I think this will bless somebody for
Amen.
sure.
Amen. This
Yeah.
has been a blessing to me, so I'm trusting it will be a blessing to others as well. Yes. And thank
Me,
you for inviting me on. Always a pleasure.
absolutely.